All right, happy Saturday, ladies and gentlemen. If you're ready to do some coin hunting and cherry picking, then probably this is the pre-workout video that you need to watch. We have a pretty stacked amount of coins, all different types of varieties and errors. Of course, if this is your 100th trip to a Pocket Change Market Report video, you guys know that all the coins in here are raw. None of them are graded. None of them don't need to be graded for the most part, unless you cherry pick something nice that absolutely deserves a PCGS or NGC slab. But we talk about it all, ladies and gentlemen. Primarily a lot of recent, more modern coin finds. We have quite the list. We have 40 combination of coins and currency to talk about today. That'll be sure to get you going for your weekend and your upcoming week. So I haven't done a video since I last did a PCMR. However, I did that one on Wednesday. So here we are Saturday morning. Love all the feedback, by the way. Some of you definitely do get a little bit of important takeaways from that midweek video, only because we miss out on probably 4 days worth of sales on eBay. So it's important to be able to capture some of that, just so we could kind of see what a revolving market looks like, rather, for a lot of these, I would consider to be kind of minor to intermediate coin finds. So strap in your belt, your seatbelt, grab your favorite drink. We got a long one here, ladies and gentlemen. We have a total of 40 coins today. And as we approach the fall season, where more people dive back into the hobby, it's going to be important to know exactly what's hot out there today. So that way you could focus on obtaining some of these coins in the future. So as always, I want to thank you guys for all your views and support. Again, my name's Sean with BlueRidgeSilverhound. And let's go ahead and jump into the first coin from the last couple days on eBay. Starting out with my good old favorite pal over here. We have a 2005 Philadelphia, Kansas Statehood quarter, as you guys know. This is the one particular state where we get that kind of like clogged die, in God we rust instead of trust. You notice that the T is missing here. That's all over as a result of some strike through. Now you could see actually the starburst action on the obverse, but you could see it a lot better on the reverse as well. And what that is that's just flow of grease from the die as it makes the strike onto the coin. Now, this particular individual also stated that there's some sort of strike through here on the D and dollar, but it just really looks like a well-placed hit. So I'm not taking any particular credence when it comes to that little minor tidbit. But again, this is a coin that probably is undeserving to talk about every week, if not for the fact that it sells for a good chunk of money. And I don't know why. These are not particularly rare. But if you're looking to make 10, 20 bucks really easy, maybe this is the coin to find. You take good pictures and you're good. You're set. This one right here is one of the nicer examples I've seen here in the last month or so, and because of that, it's sold for $29.45. Again, this particular coin, alongside a few of the other ones, has its audience, I suppose. I don't know if it's the same 2 or 3 people going after these. But it's very interesting to note the market, which is a lot higher than what you would expect for this type of coin. So make sure you look out for these for you folks there on the East Coast. Apparently, these are still out there in droves, and people are selling them for $10 to $20, $30 a hit. I mean, you can't go wrong. That's easy money. We got quarters, and we have a ton of quarters on the list today. So if you're looking to dive into a certain bankroll that you haven't touched in a while, maybe quarters might be the thing. We're coming across a bunch of really cool finds out there, not only from the Statehood series, but the America the Beautiful, and there is actually one 2021 Washington crossing to Delaware that you guys need to look out for. That's on this list. I mean, this thing has been highlighted two times in a row to back-to-back weeks. But definitely something to look out for because it sells for a lot of money. But you guys are familiar with the Homestead quarter. There's a lot to find on here, from the doubled window panes to the doubled pump handles on that water pump, along with a few other things. Now, you probably already see what is making this coin quite the looker. Of course, keep in mind it's also a Philadelphia struck coin. But this one has a ton of die chips here on the roof of this building right here. And collectors and hunters have affectionately referred to this as the snowy roof type or variety or whatever. It's not really a variety. Die chips, plain and simple, is little minor errors. It's just stress and all sorts of different things going on with those dies as they're striking many hundreds of thousands of coins in rapid succession. So, just like an automobile, these things break down over time. You begin to see little pieces of the die fall off and all sorts of great stuff. So this is one of the more later die states I've seen, especially on this side. I mean, that is really, really neat looking. There's even a little bit of a die chip here above the window. A well-placed die chip, because that also looks like a little bit of snow. So how much does something like this sell for? Well, this one in this kind of condition sold for $3. And because of how common they are, expect to see about $2 to $5 for these if they don't have the doubled die reverse. All right, and we actually have an example of that later on in the video for you guys to look at. $3. I mean, you sell 2 or 3 of these a week, and they all add up. That's what I tell people. So some have actually scoffed at the fact that you only make $2, $3 on some of these coins. So I'm like, well, they are relevant, because they sell for way above face value, number one. Number two, if you string together like 5 to 10 sales of these minor coins, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, that's $20 to $40 in profit in your pocket. And that's not including all of the other kind of like bigger coins, I suppose, that you could sell in a week. So keep that in mind. These all stack together very nicely. You could ship them in a plain white envelope, well secured, by the way, for under $1, so you'll net out about $2 on something like this. And as always, check your older silver, your scrap 90%, your 40%, or, if you're looking at foreign items as well, world coins, some of the 80% silver is pretty nice. And there's even 90, what is sterling? Huh. Whatever. Anyways, also look out for sterling as well. But anyways, this is a rather innocuous, very innocent-looking Standing Liberty or Walking Liberty $50, but it does have and feature a little bit of a lamination that's retained in there. I don't think this will be going anywhere anytime soon as far as, how delicate the lamination is. Pretty neat coin. Otherwise, it would just be worth about $7.50 to $8 melt. This particular coin sold for $30.45. I would say that's a pretty good reason to look through your scrap silver, so that way you could sell something like this. And we have a pretty neat one here. One of the most dramatic, radical type U.S. coins that feature probably toward the top end of the curve as far as errors. We have a pretty well-centered 1995 P Roosevelt dime broad strike. Boy, man, this thing really pancaked out. Without the aid of a collar, which holds the coin in during the strike, the metal flow has to go somewhere. All right, and then the collar would have the reading on there, so that's how you get the little lines, the little gripped edge, so to speak. But this one right here, just huge. It's probably about the size of a nickel. And this one, through 6 bids, sold for a whopping $67.66. Pretty nice coin, really nice grade. Make sure you look out for these out in the coin show or shop circuit. Coin dealers, sell errors, but they undercharge for stuff like this. I see it all the time. They'll ask like $15, $20 for a coin of this type, and then you can just really rake it home, especially for a much tougher dated coin. Getting back to a little bit of classical fun, we have a 1917 Standing Liberty quarter. This is a Type 1, all right? So you can't see it. It's a relatively lower grade, probably a VF20 net. But it doesn't have the 3 stars under the eagle on the reverse. But you do have a nice strike through, right here. And that's the main selling point for this coin. However, you also have to take into consideration the condition. There's a number of scrapes, nicks, dents in certain areas on the coin. Eye appeal wise, it's not fantastic, but you know, when you don't see errors on a specific date range of coins, you kind of take notice. So this one was bid up pretty well to $57.95 is what the final price was on this 1917 SLQ. All right, so nice little strike through there. Nice coin. I would say if you're able to cherry pick something like this for about 20-25 bucks, I think you're in pretty good here. Our first off-center struck coin is going to be a tougher dated 1988 Lincoln Memorial Cent. This one is off-center by a smidge, probably about 10-12%, give or take. Pretty nice high-end grade. This is one of my favorite sellers, by the way, on eBay. I love this red background that he uses. You know, just offsets any copper coins really well. And this one right here, ladies and gentlemen, 23 bids strong, sold for $22.66. Keep in mind, all the off-center struck coins that you see in this video, I would say probably not findable in circulation. You might be able to find them, but your biggest opportunity is cherry picking these. Again, dealers at the show, they have these for like $5-10 bucks, and you can pick them up nice and cheap, especially the copper nickel or the copper-plated zinc composition coins, so that's post-1982. Look out for those. And unbelievable, the same seller that I talked about selling an example of the Wounded Eagle Reverse 2000-piece Sacagawea dollar sold another one. So my PCMR from Wednesday had one of these in much lower condition, but we have another one right here, which just leads me to believe that these are being actively searched right now. Another example, much nicer shape, probably more mint state. The only thing distracting is this little spot of carbon or whatever this is here. But this is, of course, the coin with the die gouge right here. It looks like a spear going through the eagle's breast. And then there's another little one right here as well. So these always have the two die gouges right on the coin that are actually raised in relief on there. So what does a much nicer coin like this sell for? All right, so 2 bids combined. This thing sold for $103.28, whereas the previous example that is in much rougher shape sold for $80. So there's a lot of value in these, and if you were able to find one in a much higher mega mid-state red or whatever, maybe not so much red because these are a different composition than a penny. I mean, you're going to be talking about a coin that's worth a lot of money, especially if you went and graded one. $103.28. You could hardly go wrong. I also wanted to report that a friend of mine online had actually went through 3 bags of just assorted dollars, and he was fortunate enough to get them. He wasn't really happy to go through them, but his bank was trying to get rid of them. Not him. Well, they were trying to get rid of them, but they were also trying to get rid of those bags of dollars. I think there was like $1,000 per bag. So he coughed up a little bit of money, but through 3 bags, he ended up finding, count them, 5 of these Wounded Eagle Reverse 2000 Ps. And I guess he had sold through, I think, all of them except for one, which was the most gorgeous example that he had. And he indicated that he was going to send it off to NGC. So we'll see. But that was pretty cool. That was about a week and a half ago. And again, these are out there. They're not as rare as they seem, but they are under searched for sure. So just make sure that you're aware of these. If your bank has these to give away, make sure that you take advantage of it. Also look for those presidential dollars with the missing edge lettering. Those are another pretty big draw in those bags. All right, so going back to the regularly scheduled program, we have a 1964 Lincoln Memorial Cent. This one is broad struck, but it also appears like it's got a little bit of a clip, maybe? I don't know. Kind of hard to say. But it's a decent example. It's an earlier copper. broad struck coin, and this one, ladies and gentlemen, sold through 6 bids for $9.75. Not a fantastic example. Condition wise, it's got some got its issues. It's got a scratch here under Liberty, and just a bunch of like carbon spotting. So eye appeal wise, not fantastic. But if you need a broad strike for a date set, this will be a good candidate. All right, we got more America the Beautiful. Here's the other Homestead I was talking about from earlier in the broadcast, but this is again another Philly coin. This one has the doubled window pane. You can see it right here. There are many dozens of these doubled window panes. It could be here, could be here. You know, you got the pump handle ones that are also in there as well. I think altogether there's over 100, but make sure you're looking out for these. They all seem relatively minor, with the exception of maybe DDR number 4, which is the double pump handle type that you see. But a lot of these, in conjunction with the snowy roof, which this one has a earlier die state of that snowy roof look. You know, it kind of has a lot of appeal to it. You know, you even see a little bit of the earlier progression of that die chip over here on the right side of the peak, or whatever you call it. But this one right here sold for $8.98. So this is where you combine the double die reverse with this die chip, and then you end up making a little bit more money off of it. All right, our first piece of currency is going to be a well misaligned sheet. Now, I believe this is more of a misaligned sheet than it is a misaligned printing. Aside from that, you know, you notice the third print seems to be in the right spot. The green seal is a little bit higher, but that's only because the sheet was fed kind of off kilter, and you can see that even on the reverse as well. You have a much deeper margin here on the top. But what does something like this go for? It's a 6090 $1 bill, misaligned sheet. 17 bids combined, sold for $31.74. We have a lot of spicy inclusions in this week's PCMR. I mean, there's a lot of listings with bids, you know, like 10 bids, 15 bids, 20 bids. This is one of them right here. Pretty nice. And here's another one with bids as well. For those of you that like to hunt through $half rolls, there's quite a bit of you in my audience. Look out for struck through Kennedys in any type. Now, this one right here is what I would say is a minor strike through. You can see certain details are a little bit weak, a little bit disappearing there, like S&T and Trust, and in the motto also appears to be pretty well worn. Not worn, but struck through, and then the Y in Liberty is almost completely obliterated. But when this was struck, a Mint employee had applied a nice little healthy slather of grease on the dies to make sure they're working well. And then when it's struck through onto a coin, it looks like this. So you get a lot of the detail loss. This one right here, 8 bids, sold for $7.75. Which is good for 90% silver $half. So look at it that way, and you can see all the value. All right, another off-center struck coin, a partial date. It's a 1970 something. All right, it is a Denver minted copper era Lincoln Memorial. This one is off-center by about 80%. I mean, it's a pretty deep off-center. It's too bad you don't have much more of the date to really know exactly what year it is. But 7 bids strong. This one sold for $15.30. Pretty nice sale. Now, this is one I'm sure that a lot of you have probably passed up because they are sneaky, that's for sure. It's a 1957D. These show up in all different types of dates, not just this one. This one has a carbon spot, well-placed booger variety. It's not really a variety, but based on where that carbon spot is, it certainly looks like it. You guys probably see it right under Liberty. There's a little bit of a retained lamination peel. By the way, do not pull those out. I beg of you. Some people just can't help themselves, and they will pull that and sell it as a 2-piece set. You know, much to your surprise, it could probably sell for a little bit of money, but this is certainly frowned upon. Try and not do it. This example right here is sold for $9.95, which isn't too bad considering some of its condition issues. I think we probably have just a few lots this week. We have a lot of 6 off-center struck Lincoln Memorial cents. Really nothing too fancy here. These are all copper-coated zinc planchet era of coins. The more notable one, I think, would be this one, 1987. You might have a little partial date on here and on this one. And I always tell folks, be on the lookout for what I consider to be bulk bargain deals. This one right here, through 20 bids, sold for $38.01. So you're just going to have to do some basic math. Is this really worth, buying for $38 when you're trying to make money selling them as singular coins? Now, this one's interesting because it's a double strike. And then this one right here is a really nice shape, really nice condition coin. 1, 2, 3, these 3 coins right here, probably not that great. Probably sell those for about $5-10 a piece. It's going to be close. I think where it ended up as, you might be able to make $10, but that's just going to be more extra work for you with shipping and all that great stuff. $38.01. There's the reverse. Some of them have apparent corrosion issues. Again, not really that big of a seller on coins like this. They're just more of a problem to deal with. All right, so this is actually a brand new 2021 Roosevelt dime. All right, I think this is the first error that I've talked about for a 2021 dime on here. I think, I don't know. But this one right here, you can't really see much because there's a lot of like glare here on the obverse of this particular image, but it does have this pretty gnarly interior die crack break thing happening in Roosevelt's hairline. So yeah, I mean, if you're able to take pretty decent pictures of stuff like this, you could actually make money off of it. This one is a pretty nice example. I mean, it is a brand new 2021 and people are starving for more variants of different errors and varieties on much newer coins. This one sold for $7.99, which it would probably surprise the heck out of a lot of you, and knowing that something like this actually has value. But sure enough, 80 times face, if you could believe that. Here is a 2000p Roosevelt dime with some scrapes. This thing was unloved for sure, but it's a double struck example. You don't have much going on here. No secondary devices to be seen anywhere. Let's see. This one sold for $25. All right. So if you want a double struck Roosevelt dime with issues, this is probably what you would pay, $20 to $30. And we have a couple of these. I've admittedly, back in my day, thrown a lot of these back, but we have a missing date or no date Lincoln Memorial cent. Apparently, it's been struck through a wad of grease on actually both sides of the coin. Condition-wise, it's got a lot of staining and spotting on there, so not a premier example, but yeah, this coin was affected a good deal. This one sold for $5. If you wanted something a little bit better, we have this one here that is in much nicer shape. Your obverse devices are pretty well struck through that grease layer on the die. I mean, pretty nice example here. One of the more extreme examples I've seen. 4 bids totaled to $10.90 on this one. One of my favorite dates to go through for varieties in general, 1960D, and not just any 1960. It's got to be the large date. Now, there are a few minor repunchment marks to find on 1960 small dates, but they're not nearly as great enough to focus on. But the large date Denvers are a treasure trove of various RPMs and a few notable double dies. We have a set of 2 that was sold here this week, and the first one has a nice RPM. You can see kind of like that secondary D that is east or southeast of the primary. All right, so that's the least favorable looking one. The second one is one of the major ones. All right, this one's got a D over D west on here. You can just see that secondary D. This might even be the Cherry Picker's Guide variety. But unbelievably only sold for $8. I'm sure if this seller had sold both coins separately, he or she probably would have had a better result. So keep that in mind. There are just some coins that are meant to be sold as a singular coin, because they are a lot more, I guess, notable in that way. So keep that in mind. Nothing major here, just a 1994 Lincoln Memorial. This one is slightly maybe broad struck, or perhaps a little bit off center. Not by much, maybe 5% or less. Pretty minor. This one sold for $15.50. Again, it's a little bit tougher date. Speaking of tougher date, we have a 1979 Susan B. Anthony dollar coin here. Wow. It's also off center by about 10-15%-ish. Give or take. Pretty wild, because you don't see a lot of off-center struck coins in either the Eisenhower dollars, the Susan B. Anthony's, and I would say some of the earliest iterations of the Sacagawea dollar. So if you're able to find stuff like this, maybe not necessarily through roll hunting or change searching, but if you're out in a show and someone's trying to sell this for $25-30, it's probably a pretty good pickup. If not for your collection, but maybe for a quick flip. This one right here, best offer was accepted of $203.75. Again, a very, very scarce U.S. type coin to find with this off-center strike designation. Now this one's cool, and a lot of you are going to say, oh yeah, that's damaged. But I'm going to tell you this, it's not. This is actually a strike through. The reverse is struck through what looks to be reading or detached reading, which is what you see on the edge if you were to flip the coin over. But this right here, yeah, that's a detached reading, probably off of the collar somewhere. But yeah, it was on the coin or on that planchet before it was struck, and then that's how it came out. You just don't have the buildup of material or that planchet here on the edge to signify damage, because you would normally see that. This one is just, wow. And I feel like this one probably sold for just about the right price because of its condition. It's certainly circulated quite a good deal. Yeah, someone scooped this up for $200, all right? And the asking price was $199.99. Just did a general auction, and someone actually put a bid. So I would say that is a wise decision. Probably one that's better suited for like an Annex or NGC holder. We'll probably end up seeing this one in a graded holder one day. All right, so I don't know what's going on here. I know what this coin is. I've talked about this one quite a bit, but during the mid-2000s, yeah, the U.S. Mint rode those dies all the way to the grave, that's for sure, because these have pretty nice wild shattered dies. You can just see the bisecting die crack and a bunch of other different die cracks stemming off of that. But this is a 2007P. I've talked about this coin because it's a coin that is sold for at its peak, you know, like $200, but this seller just gave it away. $4.99. I don't know how that happened. I don't know if the seller put it up as a one-day auction or whatever, but this is a huge miss. Compared to the second one with a pretty incredible shattered die, this is also a 2007P. Now, contrasting-wise, we're talking a huge price difference from one to the other. This example sold for $204.45. The original asking price was $250. And after doing some research on TerraPeak, this seller accepted $200 plus shipping, which is amazing. Now that's more like it. That's more like the amount of money that you would expect for this coin. So and these two, the previous example and this one, sold within minutes of each other. So I don't know what the deal is. I just don't know. Someone royally screwed up on that first listing, and I don't know what happened, but you know, that's a lesson to be learned there for sure. Our highlight coin of the week is one that I talked about last Saturday, but a week from Friday a week ago. I butchered that, didn't I? But this is a brand new 2021 P. Let's see, Washington crossing to Delaware, as you can see. It's got this huge die chip right here that connects kind of like Washington's hat, and it goes into E Pluribus Unum. Now, the person that's been selling this, and he or she has 6 of them. He'd sold 3 of them already, and he's only had them up for like a week and a half, which tells you a lot. But he's been getting $60 a piece for each one of these, $59.99, and that's shipped. But yeah, he calls this the Crown die chip, which I think works. That's probably going to be its namesake for a long time. The Crown die chip. I like the sound of that. But this, ladies and gentlemen, this is the coin to look for today, because these are circulating all across the eastern U.S. And if you're talking about easy gravy train type money, you need some money for the holidays, I would probably search out some of these brand new quarters with that big, huge die chip here above his head. You probably won't go wrong. Now, the more of these that obviously enter the market are going to drop in value. These things probably go to $50, and then 40, and then 30. It really depends on how many's out there. But if you're able to get the inside track, put these on eBay, sell them for $55, $60, you should be able to sell through, 5 or 10 of them in about 30 days, which is pretty good to me. But yes, this is a good coin to look for. There's a little bit of a close-up of that big, huge die chip. Our next piece of currency is going to be this $1 bill. Now, this one is a 1995, all right? And this is one of those dates to look for in terms of the web press notes. So you're going to have see this little dot or speck here? The actual images are a little bit out of focus. So there is a little bit of a spot right here. That's actually a number. And that is the reverse plate number. And on a web press note, you'll see that here just to the right of "In God We Trust," the motto. All right, where normally it's going to be like right here on the bottom right hand side of this big 1. But what's a web press note? All right, I don't know if you guys get any good explanations on the interweb or on YouTube regarding this, but back in the heyday, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing actually experimented with what they call a web press process, where the paper is not a single sheet that fits 32 notes. All right, so in today's standards, the BEP uses large sheets of paper that prints 32 up onto a sheet. But back in the early 90s, and you'll only find these in like 91, 93, and 95 series of $1 bills. I think even 88A maybe. The sheet actually is fed off of a roll, kind of like how I guess the New York Times used to print newspapers, or still do. The paper is just a continuous feed off of a roll, and then the printing would be completed on there on both sides. It was met with very little fanfare. Starting out, nobody really cared about it in the early 90s for this new process. The BEP has determined that it is way too expensive to print these notes in this continuous fed roll of sheet of paper. So that was it. So it was a very short-lived run, but you're going to find that the web press notes will have this plate number to the right of "In God We Trust." Pretty hard to miss for sure. Let's see, ladies and gentlemen, this one sold for $38.21. Most web press or web notes, for short, are generally being sold for around $20 to $50, depending on condition. They could go a little bit higher than that. Our first CUD of the week. This is a really nice 1983P. Now, keep in mind, the coin looks like it's been in circulation since 1983. I mean, this thing has lots of wear. It's got grease and gunk all over. But it's got a big old CUD die break right here over the word trust. All right, there's no trust here in this particular example. And then on the reverse, in that same area, you're going to find weakness, which is normal. All right, just imagine this is the big old chunk of die that has fallen off at one point, so it's not going to strike up the reverse details. because the pressure just isn't there. This one right here sold for $51.20, and 5 bids accumulated that to that level. Another statehood quarter. This is a seldom seen Idaho state quarter. It's a 2007P, and this one has a pretty nice cut on the reverse as well. It's been a while since I talked about this one, but you know, we normally see it on West Virginias and Colorados, but I haven't seen an Idaho in probably a year. And that's probably why it's sold for a nice chunk of money. This one sold for $79.45. Wow, that's a heck of a haul, find, or whatever you want to call it, profit. Here's another off-center struck Lincoln Memorial, 1987. This one is off-center by about 55-60%. And this one sold for $18.50. And you guys know my stance on copper-plated zinc off-center coins. They're tough to store if you have a lot of moisture and humidity issues. Some more early silver to look out for. We have a 1962D Washington quarter. This is, of course, a 90% silver compo, and it's got some strike-through action on both the obverse and reverse of the coin. This one sold for $25.94. All right, we're getting into the spice as we conclude our PCMR for the week. We got like 9 or 10 coin currency related stuff, and they're all pretty nice. We have a, let's see, 1993 $1 Federal Reserve note. I mean, it doesn't look like a whole heck of a lot's going on the front of the bill, but if we look on the back, we have a apparent misalignment of that second print. Yeah, so the front of the note, as you can see, is perfectly centered, and then the back is way off. So either the sheet was fed incorrectly, where it was a little bit misaligned, or whatever. This one, 28 bids altogether, brought this one up to $69.50. Look out for this. This is a really cool looking note. Make sure you look at both sides of your dollars, 5s, 10s, 20s. Here's another one here as well. You can see it's got a little bit of a fold there on the bottom right, but we have a 1977A $1 with a fold over butterfly style of print over. So you can see that that piece of the sheet was folded over and then printed over on the back. But yeah, they call this a butterfly fold. Pretty nice, pretty cool. 15 bids altogether, and it sold for $206.95. Yes, that's the going rate for these notes. Anything with a fold over or a butterfly or anything like that is very, very valuable. The best and coolest, I would say, now the 79 Susan B. Anthony was cool, but this one right here is a copper small date 1982 that is off-center by about 60%, I would say. 23 bids altogether, and this one sold for $27. The condition is just impeccable. I'm sure someone needed this for their date type or date set of off-center struck coins, and it's got it all going on. This is such a nice coin. And here's another one right here, a lot older, 1918, and in fine shape as well. This one's off-center by about 35%. You get into the earlier dates, and it's just tough. It is. This one sold for $140. And another coin or coin set that also sold for $140 is this pair of earlier Jefferson nickels. They both have cut die breaks on the 1941. You got this here on the covering the actually Felix Schlegel initials. So that's gone. On this one here, you have it covering mostly the top of his head and Liberty. So this is a 70D. But this was actually sold as a pair. And $140 is a relatively strong value. I was about to say I would probably sell these separately, but I think at the end of the day, this seller captured probably the maximum amount of money that you would expect for these cut die breaks. So that's a wild sale. Good job to the seller in selling these for such a strong market value. I think this might be our last piece of currency on the list, but we have a 1974 $1 Federal Reserve note that has an apparent way off misaligned Third print, you can just see the serial numbers and district seals and all that stuff all shifted to the right. Pretty wild. Again, look out for these. Anything where you have third print stuff overlapping the first print they're all good. All right, so make sure you pull those out. The back of the note seems pretty normal here. 35 bits combined, and it's sold for $138.50. Wow. Here's just a really overall clean looking 1993 D. This is a Denver minted Washington quarter, our often forgotten series of quarters. Anything from the 90s is forgettable, but this one right here has two relatively nice curved clips. You have this bigger one here at 9 o'clock and another one here between 10 and 11. All right, so we're striking midnight here, just about. $45 sale on this coin. I don't know what the spots and all that stuff are on the surface. They're kind of neat. They look like miniature snowflakes, but I think that's just a reaction of some sort of moisture on the coin. Another off-center struck example, this time a 1995 P. Yeah, pretty crazy. That 5 is beginning to look like an S. And that's just a distortion stemming off of the off-center strike. A really nice high-end example right here. It's off-center by, 20%-ish, somewhere around there. And this one also sold for $45. So pretty nice sale there. Another off-center 1983 P Jefferson nickel. This time, a pretty nice high-end example. You got some stair steppage. That looks pretty strong here. And 13 bids combined. And this one sold for $44 again. This is probably more of a much tougher date with an off-center strike. All right, so that's why it sold for the amount of money it did. And then finally, the last coin of this week's Pocket Change Market Report is going to be this blank-looking Lincoln cent. As a matter of fact, this was struck through a capped die. So this is a earlier state, only because you don't see like the date or Liberty. You just see a little bit of the outline of Abraham Lincoln here. But this is an earlier copper example, probably from the 70s or maybe early 80s. And 6 bits total brought this one to $25.75. Really cool looking example here. Very honest, no damage. I mean, it's just a wholesome coin. The seller did not have a reverse image. All right, so again, I will stress, always throw a reverse image up onto your listing every time you sell on eBay. You're going to find that you're going to have a much favorable outcome to your sale. But would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this week's Pocket Change Market Report. You guys are getting 2 of these this week. That's so nice. And I think we're going to do 2 more next week. As we approach the end of summer, it should pick up a lot. A lot. So with that being said, now might be the time to schedule some coin shows or some coin shop stops here in the near future, along with trying to source out the last of the 2021 coinage out of circulation, so that way you can find some of these pretty bomb looking errors that's been coming out of the mint like you would not believe. And they're all selling for good money. If you guys want to pick up a few $100 extra in ahead of the Christmas holiday season, now might be the time. You just never know. You might not get another opportunity like that. In addition to the West Point circulation quarters that are still a little bit out there and have been jumping up in price. So that's going to go ahead and do it. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Make sure you check out my playlists. We have a lot more of these Pocket Change reports, the Monday markets. We got some of the other things in there as well. So go ahead and binge watch to your heart's content. Don't forget to like, share, or subscribe if you haven't done so already. Yeah, I've been doing this video way too long because my tongue is tied. But also hit that dislike button if you did not care about anything in this video, or you don't care about me, whatever's clever. But that's going to go ahead and do it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Thank you again for your undying support of my channel. You guys have been fantastic. You guys are instrumental in my success in the YouTube community and the coin community. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. Coinaholics, We are discovering together each and every single day. I wish you guys the best of luck in your hunts for this upcoming week. And that's going to go ahead and do it. You guys take care, and I will see you on the next coin video. So long.